making the case for Israel, the Jewish people's homeland. We've moved beyond the biblical evidence here. Just quickly review a biblical record, 2000 BC. We got to the New Testament last week. We spoke for many weeks about the covenants that tie together the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, the Abrahamic covenant. We saw with the death of Abraham that the Abrahamic covenant continues on through Isaac and then Jacob. And of course, Jacob dies, but the Abrahamic covenant passes on to Joseph and his 11 brothers as well. We see that when Moses leads the children of Israel outside of the land of Egypt toward Mount Sinai, it is on the basis of the Abrahamic covenant. It is there being led to Sinai on the way to the Holy Land, to the land of promise, that they receive the Mosaic covenant on the way at Mount Sinai. And we see, of course, that the children of Israel under Joshua, we talked a little bit about this today in our Shabbat school class on the Holy Land. We see that the green area largely is the area that was conquered under Joshua. There'll be some holes here and there, some open areas, and then, of course, the pink area that are the remainder of the boundaries of Canaan, and, of course, the other lines which encompass the entirety of what was promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We saw the land covenant as it was presented in Deuteronomy chapter 29 and 30. We see Joshua entering into the promised land on the basis not of the Mosaic covenant, but of the Abrahamic covenant. We saw the Davidic covenant, which winds up being the crown on top of our series of covenants, because in addition to the God of Israel speaking to the people of Israel and about the land of Israel, there is also the King of Israel who is promised to ensure that the land is indeed, when the king arrives, when the king appears, to take his throne and sit on the Davidic throne, that eternal throne that was promised. There will be an unshakable kingdom, and those promises that were made to the Jewish people through Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, through the Abrahamic covenant, will indeed finally, at long last, be fulfilled. That was Solomon's understanding as he built the temple, and we established literally the geography of the city of Jerusalem as the holiest of holy places in the Holy Land, and the extent of Solomon's kingdom. We see, however, that the kingdom divided in 931, upper and lower kingdoms, kingdom of Israel, kingdom of Judah on the south. They do not last very long. It's during this period of time that the prophets speak, and one of the prophets, Jeremiah, who is later echoed by the prophet Ezekiel, gives the promise of a new covenant which has not only to do with as we discussed at length in the past, it has not only to do with the forgiveness of sin and the placing of the laws of God inside the believers' hearts and minds, but also has to do part and parcel with the eventual restoration of the entire nation of Israel when the Jewish people return to that land, in preparation for the king who will ensure, by sitting on an eternal throne and being himself immortal, will ensure, as our Messiah, will ensure that no one ever threatens Israel again. The destruction and deportation of the northern kingdom of Israel occurred in 722. What happened to those 10 tribes? We talked a little bit about that today in our class, the 10 tribes. What happened to them? They are dispersed throughout the Assyrian Empire. However, what people forget when they talk about the 10 lost tribes, and it's such a well-known phrase in our parlance today, 10 lost tribes, oh, we don't know. Well, remember that there was quite a period of time when the northern kingdom lived in immediate proximity with the southern kingdom, and if you did not like what was going on in the northern kingdom, which was the worship of foreign gods, then you could escape through something called an open border, right? And we see how easy it is from one border to just cross from one land to cross over an open border and into. So there are lots of people from the other tribes who escaped. And of course, when Assyria came, and it seemed to be a fait accompli, there were many who fled. I guess they checked into the border and said, we're fleeing persecution. We're seeking asylum. And they found asylum in the southern kingdom. So there's a misnomer that there's 10 lost tribes. Those 12 tribes remained intact in the southern kingdom, perhaps not in great numbers, but nonetheless remained intact all the way until New Testament times and thereafter. So we saw the Greek occupation of Babylon. Babylon took the kingdom of Judah into exile, and at 605, but 535, first Syria's wave of people return. They don't all return. Many stay in the Babylonian world, which is conquered by Persia, of course, and then there is a conquest of Greece. So world powers change, but generally the idea remains the same, that the Jewish people remain under the thumb of other nations. The Greek occupation, beginning with Alexander the Great in 333 BC, lasts and continues until 164, when there is a great revolution, when the Jewish people throw off the bondage of the Syrian Greco occupation, the oppression, and enjoy religious freedom again. And there they have that's Hanukkah, guys. And there we have a Hasmonean kingdom. It's a free and independent Jewish kingdom from 164 to 63 BC. And that remains intact. And in fact, the Jewish people expand. By the time the Hasmonean kingdom is over, the territory of Israel has expanded into a great width. Look at how far it goes to the south, to the north, to the almost as if it's a fulfillment of what God promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But remember, what he promised them was not just a mere few decades looking like this, but perpetuity. And under the leadership of the king, who would be a Davidic king, a Davidic dynasty. These Hasmoneans were Levites. And so this was an unauthorized kingdom. It was a Jewish kingdom. It was a real kingdom, but unauthorized kingdom according to God's covenants, God's laws. But nonetheless, Romans made short work of them in 63 BC. Their occupation lasted until 135 AD. Well, and here we are at 3 minutes past 12, and it looks like I have to stop. Now, I was asked, however, what did Israel what did the map look like under Roman occupation? What did the map look like? What did Israel look like under Roman occupation? And here we have Israel as it stood at the birth of Yeshua, at the dawn of the New Testament era. This is Herod's kingdom. This is Herod's kingdom. But once Yeshua is born, almost immediately, King Herod, who is a Roman puppet, he passes away, and his kingdom is divided into various parcels, parceled out to his sons. And here we have what the kingdom of Herod winds up being during the time of the Gospels, during the time of Acts. This is roughly what it looks like with this central area of Judea here, Roman cities, the Decapolis, and the Sea of Galilee, the region of Galilee up north. So that is, and as always, that pesky seacoast there where the Gaza Strip is. Very difficult. Anyway, that is what Israel looked like, to answer your question from this morning, in the time of the New Testament. But it doesn't remain this way for very long. If Yeshua begins his ministry in 30 AD, or if you want to take an earlier date, in 27 AD, and is crucified and resurrected in 33 AD, or if you want to take an earlier date, 30 AD, then from 33 years, additional years go by, and a war will break out. It seems like this war is so horrific, is so awful, that the Jewish people will never want to repeat such a war again. It is a revolution against Rome. We'll talk about that next time, because I'm afraid between now and then I must keep you in suspense.